Hi, my name is Sophie Barrow. I left Norwich High in 2021 after finishing my A-levels there. I'm currently on a gap year with a place at the University of Liverpool commencing September 2022. Miss Mickleborough has asked me to answer a few questions about my experiences on my gap year, about university and just vet med in general. So here we go.
What have you been doing since leaving school?
After completing my A-levels, I started my gap year. I passed my driving test at the end of June, and then at the beginning of July I started my first ever proper paid job other than umpiring a little bit of hockey as an animal assistant in a small zoo. I originally started as a seasonal employee and my original contract ended at the end of October last year, but I was offered a permanent role, so I stayed on. It's given me a lot of experience working with animals, in particular with reptiles and invertebrates, which I hadn't had any prior experience with. And it's also built my confidence a lot because there's been a big aspect of interacting with the public and I enjoy helping people too, so it's been a really fulfilling job. But I've just come back from a little adventure. I know I wanted to get away somewhere on my year out, so I worked and saved the money for a veterinary internship in South Africa for a month. I got back last week, had the time of my life, and I'm really proud of myself for doing it. It gave me a really varied experience. We did community outreach projects with dogs and goats where I got to practice my injection skills and also handling potentially aggressive dogs. I also spent time working on farms and got covered in a lot of cow poo at one stage. I spent some time with horses and also did enrichment for the animals at the zoo and aquarium. On my last week we did game capture and one of the highlights of that was helping an orphaned 3-month-old zebra. But it wasn't just about the veterinary experience, it was also about the travel and cultural experience. And I've made friends for life and memories I'll never forget. But now that I'm back, my focus is to work and save money for university.
And how are you finding life after sixth form?
I'm really enjoying it. I definitely needed a break this year, especially after the stress of A-levels and COVID, but I'm gaining independence and I'm just genuinely a happy person. At first I did struggle with the lack of school routine, but I think after I got my job, I settled in quite quickly. I do miss my friends and I try to see them as much as possible, but I'm just enjoying the fact that life has slowed down a little bit.
And what are you working towards?
Obviously my dream is to become a vet. I'm trying to keep my options open, but I'm particularly interested in small animals and wildlife conservation medicine. I do have a few options on that route, so I could, for example, take an integrated year at university to study conservation medicine, but I've got plenty of time to decide on what I want to do. But I think getting into vet school is the easiest thing. There are a lot of hoops that you have to jump through. Obviously there's the grades, then you also have the work experience. It's a bit of a nightmare because you have to be at least 16 to start, and if you have a late birthday like me, then you've got less time to get it all in. Every university has its own requirements. It varies between like small and large animal veterinary practice, lambing, animal husbandry, farms, zoos, abattoirs, all sorts. I think, for example, the RVC requires as a minimum 140 hours within the 18 months prior to application, and that obviously you have to fit that in on top of all of your studies, so holidays are usually taken up. This is a lot, especially as VetMed has an early October deadline, so it's important that you have everything in order before this deadline, because they're not usually very lenient. With COVID, they have been a bit more lenient by extending deadlines and accepting online work experience, but I think they're trying to phase out of that and try to go back to what they were before COVID now. But yeah.
And what have you started this year that's new?
Obviously driving, I got a job. I'm trying to read more books because I didn't do much of that before. and I'm also trying to socialise more because I've spent so much time focusing on my studies that I just haven't really gotten out that much. So I'm trying to do more of that.
How you managed life during the COVID pandemic?
I think I was lucky in that I dealt with it pretty well. At first, it was a big shock to the system, but especially being at home, I was able to just sort of get myself into my own little bubble and focus. It was difficult not seeing family for so long, and it was scary at times, but I just tried to keep in touch with everyone, especially if I was starting to struggle a bit. But I mostly just tried to find outlets. Music was a big one for me, and that gave me a lot of comfort and energy boost, and it helped me through my studies. But yeah.
And what advice would you give to your former sixth form self?
Try to relax more and have more faith in yourself because you're more than capable of achieving your dreams. Thank you.